It's pronounced pumpkin, honey, not fucking. Please don't tell Mrs. Clemens you saw her fucking in the window of her front room. I used to use this mouth to discuss global warming. The Francis Bacon was really Shakespeare theory. Now I say things that would make no sense to a foreigner who is trying to learn English. Green beans don't work as straws. My parting instructions when I leave my kids at their friends' houses have become embarrassing. Play nicely, share. Don't pull the dog's whiskers out again. Don't put a ping pong ball in your mouth to see if you can whistle with a ping pong ball in your mouth. Look both ways before crossing the street, and that means side to side, not up and down. And honey, please don't talk to Mrs. X about the president again. In the unlikely event that it seems like a good idea for you to stick your peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the underside of the kitchen table, please don't. It's a stark contrast to the breezy goodbye that their friends' mothers seem to give. And every time I think I've covered every possible scenario, no matter how illogical, they find a previously undiscovered loophole, and I have to add something like, don't wipe snot on the wall while you're sitting on the toilet. With a lip. Not me. It's not always entirely their fault. Sometimes I forget my children take everything literally, so a metaphor gets me into trouble. When my grandfather died, just before my daughter's 8th birthday, I assured her that, even though he was gone, he would always be with her. She didn't sleep for days. Finally, I had to backtrack and say something that made more sense to her, even though it felt less true to me. He's gone, and we'll miss him. It fell short of the spiritual lesson I wanted to take the opportunity to impart, but ultimately I believe it spared her the nightmarish imaginings of her grandfather standing by in the dark, unmoving, unspeaking. Not quite himself, not quite gone. We'd taken our cue from an earlier problem when my husband had tried to explain the importance of hand washing in order to remove potentially dangerous germs. Now, I will say I think he probably overstated the case. He tends to lose patience when forced to argue over simple instructions, and I'm fairly sure that the argument ended with something, oh my God, because if you don't wash your hands, you might eat germs that will make you sick and die. I didn't actually hear him say it, but given the fact that she turned into Lady Macbeth, washing her hands into a cracked and bleeding mess for the next several months until she finally got enough therapy to stop, makes me think his argument was pretty compelling. That's why when my son had to be told not to lick the wall, I explained simply that because he might get a bad stomachache. Children get too obsessed with more dramatic ideas. They will obsess over death or terrible illness. No one gets obsessed with the idea of puking or diarrhea. The necessity for these mental maneuvers never seems to go away. The other day was the 3rd day of summer vacation, and my son was getting bored. I heard my daughter say, oh my God, Jack, take the trash can off your head. I swear to God, it's true. And I took a moment to appreciate the sweet irony of her incredulity. But of course, it wasn't her kid who was grinding the remnants of bathroom waste into his hair. It was mine. So the sweet irony dissolved like smoke, and I had to handle the situation while she walked out of the room, shaking her head condescendingly at his stupidity. This could have been a good place to point out that they outgrow the need for this sort of obvious instruction, that as children grow older, they also grow wiser, and the advice turns to a more poignant, more meaningful, neither a borrower nor a lender be kind of thing. You might imagine, or at least I would have, that by the time my daughter was 18, we'd be having deep talks about relationship decisions, career directions, coping with changing friends, and deepening responsibilities. But no. 2 days before she called her brother an idiot for putting a trash can on his head, I had to tell her, it's not my job to remind you that you're a vegetarian. Because she could not believe I had stood by and watched her eating chicken straight off the bone. I cannot even imagine what I'll have to say next. Will I be the one responsible for telling my grandchildren, no, an umbrella is not a parachute? Am I the one who will have to call poison control and admit that they had poured themselves juice cups full of orange cough medicine thinking it was juice? At this rate, will my children even be capable of having their own kids one day without explicit and inappropriate instructions from me. All I know is that I'm not alone. My friend's son stuck dog treats on the trays at a party one time, and she didn't know until she found all the half-eaten ones all around the house the next day. And my friend had the sense to add "don't put dog treats on the hors d'oeuvres tray" to her list of pre-party instructions. She might have avoided this faux pas. I know I've added it to my list. Just the other day, I heard a mother at the neighborhood pool say to her toddler, "Just put your shorts on your head and stop whining." I looked over at them, and the reason for needing the shorts on the head wasn't obvious, but I knew there had to be a good reason. There always is. So I'll just chug along, trying to keep my family alive and healthy, occasionally doling out more of these bizarre words of common sense. I don't care how it looks, the toilet bowl is not filled with blue Kool-Aid. Pour out this drink you gave me and get mommy her happy juice.
I just want to hire that girl for things. She is beautiful and sexy. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Okay. So we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Next gentleman.